The morning after my son's funeral, my daughter-in-law stood in the hallway, folded her arms, and told me I had 24 hours to get out of the house. No discussion, no sympathy, no hesitation. And the worst part? She smiled when she said it. At that moment, I thought I had lost everything. My only son was gone, my home was gone, and the woman he married was making it clear I was nothing more than an inconvenience. But what she didn't know, what none of us knew yet, was that my son had already seen this coming, and he had quietly prepared something that would change everything. It all started with a phone call at 3:17 inches the morning. I remember the exact time because the digital clock on my nightstand glowed bright red in the darkness when my phone started vibrating. I was half asleep when I answered. "Mom!" It was my son Ryan, but something about his voice was wrong. It sounded strained, tight, like every word hurt. "My chest, something's wrong, I can't..." And then the line went dead. I called back 3 times. No answer. By the time I threw on my coat and drove across town to Street, Luke's medical center, the waiting room, was already quiet and sterile in that way. Hospitals are at night. A doctor came out after about 15 minutes. I could tell from his face before he even spoke. "Massive heart attack," he said gently. "We tried everything. Ryan was 45 years old, healthy, active, the kind of man who still jogged on weekends and drank those green smoothies people are always recommending. And just like that, he was gone. Standing next to me in the hospital waiting room was his wife, Caroline. She held a tissue to her face, shoulders shaking slightly like she was crying. But for just a second, just a tiny moment, when the doctor walked away, I could have sworn I saw relief flash across her face. At the time, I told myself grief was playing tricks on me. I didn't realize it then, but that moment was the first crack in everything I thought I knew. The next few days were a blur of funeral planning. Caroline insisted on handling everything herself. "I'm his wife," she kept saying any time someone asked a question. "I know what Ryan would have wanted." The funeral was held at a small church in Brookhaven, the kind with white wooden pews and stained glass windows that glow when the sun hits them just right. Friends from Ryan's office came, neighbors from our street, people who had watched him grow up. I stood there greeting everyone, thanking them for coming, trying to keep myself together. Losing your parents hurts, losing your spouse hurts, but losing your child, that's something different. It feels like the world has been ripped open, but that wasn't the worst part. After the service, there was a reception in the church hall with coffee, sandwiches, and those little store-bought cookies people always bring to these things. I stepped outside for some air because the room felt too crowded. That's when I heard Caroline talking to her sister near the flower arrangements. "The life insurance alone is over $200,000, she whispered. Her sister asked, "What about Ryan's mom? She lives with you guys, right?" Caroline laughed. "And it wasn't a sad laugh. That's not my problem anymore," she said. "She's a grown woman. She'll figure it out." My stomach dropped. I had been living with them for 2 years. After Ryan got married, I sold my small house in Peoria and helped them with the down payment on their place in Brookhaven. $40,000, every bit of savings I had. Ryan promised it was temporary until I found a smaller place, but life just kept moving. I helped cook dinners, did laundry sometimes, took care of the garden. I thought I was helping. Apparently, I was just in the way. Later that afternoon, Caroline asked me to come into the kitchen. She closed the door behind us. "I'm going to be honest," she said. "This house is legally Ryan's, which means it's mine now." I nodded slowly. I figured, "I need space," she continued, "to grieve." "Of course," I said, "but we can figure something out." She shook her head. "No, you living here doesn't work anymore." I thought I had misheard her. "Caroline, you want me to leave? I'll give you until tomorrow evening." Just like that. 67 years old. And I was being evicted from the home I helped pay for. But that wasn't the worst part. When I asked where she expected me to go, she shrugged like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You'll figure it out." I packed my life into 4 suitcases that night. Old photo albums, a few clothes, the sweater Ryan gave me for Christmas 3 years ago. The next day I waited, half expecting Caroline to knock on the door and say she had spoken in anger. She never did. At exactly 6 in the evening, she stood in the hallway with her arms crossed. "Time's up!" We carried my bags to the car in silence. Right before I got in, I turned to her. "I don't understand why you hate me," I said quietly. Her answer came instantly. "You didn't do anything wrong," she said. "You just exist in my space." Then she said something I will never forget. "Ryan only kept you around because he felt sorry for you." I drove away without looking back. The only place I could afford on short notice was a Holiday Inn on the edge of town near the highway. The room smelled like cleaning chemicals and old carpet. That first night, I sat on the bed staring at the wall for hours. My husband had been gone for 10 years. Now my son was gone too, and the only family I had left had just thrown me out like garbage. But something about the way Ryan had been acting the last few months kept nagging at me. I didn't realize it then, but my son had already seen something I hadn't. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Ryan's lawyer. "Mrs. Hale," he said, "there will be a formal reading of Ryan's will on Tuesday." I almost didn't go. I assumed everything would go to Caroline anyway. But when I arrived at the lawyer's office, Caroline was already there, wearing a black designer dress and sitting beside her brother Marcus. She looked annoyed when she saw me. "What is she doing here?" she asked the receptionist. The lawyer walked in a moment later, and what happened next, none of us expected. At first, the will was exactly what Caroline wanted. The house, Ryan's car, his retirement accounts, the life insurance policy. She nodded smugly after each item, but then the lawyer paused. "There is one final provision Ryan added 3 months ago." Caroline leaned forward immediately. "To my mother, Margaret Hale," he read, "who helped us purchase our home, I leave the contents of Safety Deposit Box B, 417 at First National Bank." Caroline frowned. "What safety deposit box?" The lawyer shrugged. "Apparently Ryan kept one privately." 3 days later, I was standing inside the bank vault holding the metal box. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was a letter. Ryan's handwriting covered the first page. "Mom," it began, "if you're reading this, Caroline has probably already shown you who she really is." My chest tightened. "I didn't put the house in your name because I knew she would fight it in court, but I did something smarter." Under the letter were bank statements, investment accounts, property records. I looked at the final page and my breath caught. For 5 years, Ryan had been investing money. The account holder wasn't him. It was me. I flipped through the statements again. The total balance made my hands tremble. $1.2 million. At the bottom of the letter, Ryan had written one last line. I knew Caroline would chase the house. Let her. The real inheritance was always meant for you. I sat there in that tiny bank room crying for nearly 20 minutes, not because of the money, but because even after he was gone, my son had still been protecting me. And suddenly being thrown out of that house didn't feel like losing everything anymore, because the woman who thought she had won had no idea she had been playing the wrong game the entire time.